everybody. So, Facebook Live regulating at 8:25 tonight, a little early. So, I have given a lot of thought to what I want to do tonight. I have two special guests here that I asked them 5 minutes ago if they would do this with me, and they were willing, so I really appreciate them being here. But last week I was asked a question of what is health, and I answered it in a very specific way. And I thought about it when I left, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it because I answered health, what is health, in a way of going, oh, it's really a lack of symptoms. But that's not a complete answer, and I feel like I could do this for the next 9 weeks. But we've asked Ian to go ahead and do a series on Facebook Live in regards to what his version of wellness and health is. So he's going to talk about it as well. But my two ladies are here tonight because one of the things I realized that I want to talk about is, you know, yes, getting up in the morning, having energy, getting hungry and eating, pooping after I eat, all these things that we talked about last week are all signs that I'm healthy because I don't have symptoms. But what happens if you get sick? Are you unhealthy? No. You know, if I get sick because everybody around me is sick, then that's a good use of my immune system because my immune system is able to fight it, right? Everybody's worried about the coronavirus. Well, it's really the immune compromise that should be worried about, not only the coronavirus, but any other virus and bacteria and metal load and stress. Because the immune challenge are just that. They're challenged in their immune system. But at True Wellness, we focus on building your immune system up so that when it's ready, or when you need it to be ready, it is ready. And how do you tell that? Well, there's a lot of ways. So we're going to talk about regulation from the concept that it's the ability to compensate for life. Because everything we do in our life, we have to compensate for. When the phone rings, when the temperature changes, when this light that's shining in my eye is distracting my peripheral vision to make sure you guys can see us well enough. I have to compensate for that. I have to compensate for the noise machine, for the heat in this room. Every little thing that's going on, my body's compensating for, or it's not. And when it stops compensating is the lack of regulation. The longer we don't regulate, the easier it is for disease to set in, because regulation is really the definition of health. The opportunity and wellness, health and wellness, the opportunity for our body to compensate for both internal and external stressors. Okay? So Lillian, you are almost 15.
Almost 15.
And you've been with us for about, what, 3 or 4 weeks? 4 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
4 weeks, traveling up from Arkansas.
Yep.
And this is Mom.
Hello.
Angel Mom. Truly, her name is Angel. And a lot of you have heard about the contact regulation thermography test that we do, the CRT. And anybody that's been around for the last 8 weeks knows that my CRT hasn't worked. For the first time in 15 years, I've had to do this medicine without CRT. And everybody's watched me get a little pissed off at the ability, or at the fact that this computer wasn't working. So with them here, I asked Angel to take it on her job list to see if she could manage this. And it took quite a few calls and persistence and everything to get the CRT, and I'm sure at some level she was like, why do you even care about this test so much? Was there any part of you? I don't know that.
No, not really. I wanted to know what it was all about.
Okay.
Because I'd heard it was very important.
So then we did a CRT today on Lillian.
It was an experience.
And tell
For
them why.
sure.
Because I want to explain real quick. Thermogram is a picture. Thermography is a graph. So when we do a thermography, it's 128 points of temperature that we take. And then the person cools off in the room by themselves
For 10 minutes.
in just their underwear.
Yep.
And asking a 15-year-old girl to do that is not easy.
No.
And you had a couple other colleagues here that were around your same age, and they were not excited about doing this test either.
No.
They were kind of a little excited that they had to leave before
Yeah.
I got the test
Yeah.
fixed.
So going into it, you know, I think I'm going to be fine, and it's going to be fine. And, like, who cares if I'm naked in a room by myself or with, you know, Kelly in there. And then I get into the test, and she goes, okay, take off your shirt. And I was like, huh? What? I was totally unprepared. And then I got, like, all this anxiety, and it kind of made me uncomfortable. And then you left the room for 10 minutes and told me I had to stand there in my underwear and get cold. And that was honestly terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, it was so weird. And then after, I'm just like, oh, I can do it again. I'll be fine. It'll be totally fine.
So you had to compensate
Yeah.
for all that stress.
Oh, yeah.
Not only you can't shower in the morning, I asked you not to eat in the morning,
Yeah.
I asked you to get here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Which is unusual. I wake
All
up
of
at
that.
like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So 8 o'clock is an accomplishment for me.
And then we couldn't go over this test until 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
We started this at 8 o'clock this morning. We went over at 7 o'clock at night. How did it make you feel when we started going over it?
I was very overwhelmed. There's so much information that it all makes so much sense, and it's just nice to have the confirmation that it makes sense to me, because I have a hard time explaining it to other people, especially, like a practitioner. I know what I want to say, and then I get in the room, and I feel pressured, and then it turns into something that I didn't want to say. This just totally confirmed everything that I was like, that could be an issue, this could be an issue. Well, yeah.
And I think part of it for you was when I explained the analogy of the hourglass.
Yeah.
That seemed to click in for you a little bit.
Yeah.
Angel wants to say something. Go.
It did click in.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it made total sense because as we went over the CRT results, everything that she's been experiencing for the last few years actually started coming together and making sense as to why she's had all these symptoms and why she's had diagnosis after diagnosis that doesn't make a lot of sense, why we couldn't get it figured out and fixed. And now I understand, like my mind is blown. Now I understand what we're dealing with and the fix for it. That's the most important thing. Is that it's going to take time,
Right.
but it's also fixable.
And so I'm just curious if you don't mind sharing what's your understanding after reading the CRT. I didn't tell you were going to be on a test. It's not a test, okay? It's just a matter of, I talked for an hour, a little over an hour, about an hour, 20 minutes. I explained first how to read the CRT, not because I want you to read the CRT, but because I want you to understand regulation.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you understand regulation, you start to understand how your body works. Because what I had said was, at some point, the diagnosis, don't take this wrong, please, people that are listening to this. Diagnosis doesn't matter to us at some level. Because diagnosis is a group of symptoms that now, based upon that, you can get a drug for, or you can get insurance coverage for. But for us, everything is about the regulation of the body.
Right.
Because the body is what heals. If we can get your body to drain better, pee better, poop better, sweat appropriately, and bleed better, and breathe better. These are the ways we get it out. If we can get it out, then we sit back and we go, okay, let nature do the rest. One of my things that we talked about earlier was the detoxification protocols that everybody has out there. And I have a lot of great friends and colleagues that do a lot of detoxification. And I'm not against it. I do a lot of detoxification with our client base. However, our goal is to get your body to take over detoxification. That's what the body's designed for. And we made a joke because we had talked about doing some hydrocolon therapy down the road, but you don't have to be dependent upon it.
Yeah.
You do 2-3 sessions and you're done. Because then you've cleaned up your environment, you've cleaned up your diet, because you can properly compensate. And I had a colleague friend of ours say, who's a hydrocolon therapist, that you have to do hydrocolon therapy every month for the rest of your life. And I said, but what about the deer and the rabbits? They don't have to do hydrocolon therapy every month for the rest of their life.
Right.
And they live more like organisms.
Right.
They get sunshine. They eat live food off of trees
Right.
that they hunt and gather for. They take action to go get their food. They get tired, they sleep, they hibernate, they do their things, they populate the earth, and then they die at an appropriate time. I don't see them going crazy and needing Xanax and
Right.
needing hydrocolon therapy and then having to take supplements for the rest of their lives so
Right.
that they can poop.
Right.
But we don't live like organisms, the majority of people on the planet, right? So we're going to spend more time outside. We're gonna move more.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna open our hearts more.
Right.
Express how
Slightly
we
scary.
feel more. Also very slightly scary.
Yeah.
But what this showed you is that your head isn't compensating.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Do you mind if I go over it?
No.
No, I don't
Okay.
mind.
So her head isn't compensating. So there's a head, neck, and body, and everybody's body. The top of the hourglass, the middle of the hourglass, and the bottom of the hourglass. And when I asked Lily upon clinical evidence, she goes, yeah, I poop every day, and I poop multiple times a day sometimes. So at looking, you'd be like, okay, pooping isn't your issue. She had, we've talked about pits versus puffs. This girl got some puff situation going on.
Large puff.
Large puff on only one side of her body versus the other.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot in the last few weeks since you've been here. And what else started to happen since you've been here?
Sweating.
She's sweating now.
I sweat. Ah.
Good. And you got your cycle when you were here.
Yes, which was exciting because I could stand on it, and that is like such an accomplishment because I couldn't walk. It would come and I couldn't walk for 3 days. Like I could, but when it would hit, it was just, I'm going to stay here and this is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life because I'm going to have to bleed for the rest of my life. And now I obviously know that that's not normal.
And you were having some problems breathing when we first met you,
Yes.
and your lungs are feeling better.
Yes, my tongue is still tied, but my lungs are better.
We're going to get her to get a pediatric dentist to untie her tongue. See?
Untie her tongue.
See, I have an issue with that. I might need it.
Yeah.
And then Angel, mom, has been in menopause for how long?
For at least 6 or 8 months.
Okay, and we started doing lymph, and what happened, Mom?
Yeah, I started my cycle since I've been here.
So she's bleeding appropriately to get it out. So they're pooping, they're sweating, they're bleeding, they're breathing.
Right.
So if we drain out our toxic load, the nervous system can drain out the bottom. Now we got to get the tonsils to work because on the CRT, her tonsils look like they're inflaming. Well, yeah, her whole body's showing allergy and toxicity. Because as we said, it's not that your lymph is moving, it's what's in your lymph that's moving. And we looked at other assessments, it indicated that there was a heavy metal load, verified, again, by the CRT. And here's what's so exciting to me. She's never had a severe filling in her mouth.
Nope.
But she did.
I did.
So when she was in her belly, she absorbed a lot of her toxins. That mercury gravitated to the head and the neck and the autonomic nervous system. She was diagnosed with a nervous system disorder, which we said, we're not really tied into the diagnosis, so let's just work with your body. And when we started working with her body and she started getting good results, when I looked at the CRT today, I go, well, doesn't that make sense that it's affecting her nervous system?
Yeah.
Because it's not draining out of her body. Because even though you poop now, trust me, you don't poop like you're going to poop. You're going to poop like a maniac. You're going to bleed and sweat like a maniac. And your toxins are going to come out. And then your nervous system disorder is going to continue to go away. Because it's not that you have a nervous system disorder. You have a toxic load that's affecting your nervous system because it's not draining out of your head and neck. Yeah. And the clinic that you worked with before you got here did something that rarely do I get to say this on a CRT because most of her temperature of her body's cold. Cold means old toxins. With one exception. Her temperature regularly, or her thyroid, is awesome. It's actually warming and looks totally proper. And that goes to Dr. Hanley at the Nerve Relief Clinic, the Spiro Clinic, multiple name clinic, right, that they have, because they put her on a routine for her thyroid for the last year, and it absolutely has worked.
Yeah.
I don't get to say very often when I do a CRT, hey, your thyroid looks great. Maybe 3 times a year I get to say that. So really great job, and really great job to your body. Because they may have given you the supplements, but you took it and your body managed it. Your body healed it. Because your body does that healing. Yeah. So then as we move your lymph, as we move your toxic load, your body's going to just get better and better. But it's going to take years, not months.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I want to go back to the first 10 minutes of reading this test and explaining it. And this is a perfect test right here. Nobody's perfect, but this is a perfect test. And I was explaining how to read it and how the black is the first read and red is the second read. And that's why you want to do a thermography versus a thermogram. A thermogram is a picture of a stagnant person going, here's where your stressors are in your body. But if you're not stressed, we don't know how well your body handles more stress. That's just stagnant. I don't know about you, but I'm not a stagnant being.
Right.
You're not stagnant. You're not stagnant. We're ever evolving, ever dynamically changing beings. So if I put your finger in cold water, that's stress. And being able to compensate for that, or the ability to compensate for that, is health or lack thereof. And the longer you let regulation be disrupted, right? We were talking about driving a car. We were talking about gear shifting. We're going to learn how to drive a stick shift so she understands the difference between first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. When you're driving a car, you're automatically Ha ha ha. If you're driving an automatic car, it's compensating for you. Oh, you're going 10 miles an hour, shift down to first gear. Oh, you're going 50 miles an hour, shift up to fifth gear, right? But when you're driving a manual, you have to make that determination. Oh, we're going into 45 miles an hour, I got to shift up to third. Oh, if everybody's braking, I'm going shifting down to first, right? That's proper compensation. You can also just drive your car in first gear. And you can drive at 10 miles an hour, and you can drive at 50 miles an hour. The car will burn out fast. The engine will sound horrible, but you can do it. But that's driving around your body in blocked regulation. You can do it for a certain amount of time, then all of a sudden the body shuts down. And the person goes, I don't know, I was healthy till I got cancer. No, you weren't healthy, because there was a lot leading up to prior to being diagnosed with cancer. Cancer's not the problem. Cancer's the solution to the lack of regulation that's happening in the body. So if a body's blocked in an area and there's no energy going to it over and over and over again, the body's going to start to turn cells over to make those bad cells, at least to bring energy to an area where it's void, because the body wants energy. So as we started to review this, and I was trying to explain how to read it, I said, you know, the ideal scale's in gray, but the new one is in yellow. So I pulled this out real quick, and I go, this is Lily's in yellow, and Angel looks at it and goes, I go, don't look at that right now. So then we start reading it, and we're about here, and there are tears. So tell us about that moment.
Well, it scared me because of all the things that I was seeing on there that's not working properly right now.
All the out of range.
Out of range things. It makes a lot of sense for all the troubles that she's had.
Look at her. What's funny about that?
Oh, it makes so much sense, and that's
right.
That's hilarious.
It makes a lot of sense for all the trouble that she's had in becoming healthy and feeling healthy and functioning healthy. Just when we would think that she was getting better and she was doing great, she would go back to normal people activities, and then all of a sudden she was down again. And now it makes sense because she never got the junk out.
Right. And it's affected her adrenals and her vitality because she's running on metals, not minerals. Right? So she's up from minerals. We see that here. And then here's the last thing that I want to talk about in regards to regulation. For me, this test is a great indicator of how you feel. Right now, you have symptoms. It would be easy to deal with you without this, because the last 3 or 4 weeks, I won't say easy, felt like I was flying blind because I was not used to not having this task, but it was because of our clinical experience and education, we were able to manage it pretty well without this. However, now that we have this, it makes it easier to manage you and help you manage yourself. Now here's my rub, and what I said to you earlier. I started doing this 15 years ago on myself, and mine looks better today than ever. But I didn't have symptoms even then when I started it. So how would it have ever gotten better? How could I have increased my health? How could I have made my health ideal if I don't have symptoms? Because most people in today's society chase symptoms, and once symptoms are gone, they're done.
Right.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right.
But then you would slip back, and you couldn't figure out why.
The symptoms would come back, and it was so frustrating because a week ago they were gone. But then I got back to normal activities, and all of a sudden they came back. Right. It was really frustrating.
And so what's your understanding now, after being here and understanding the CRT, what do you know about your body that you didn't know?
That I don't regulate at all. My heavy metal load is crazy, even though I have no metals in my actual body. You
didn't have a leak.
Yeah.
Right.
And, like, so much more that I can't think of right now.
Okay.
But, yeah.
What I felt like it did for you more than anything is it motivated you to go through all these therapies.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because
there's a reason
guidebook,
behind.
and we understand why.
Yeah.
This gives you here's your path, here's your guidebook, and
here's where
now
you go
it
next.
seems doable.
Yeah.
Now it seems like we know what battle we're fighting, and we're not just going out and reaching after symptom after symptom after symptom.
And we can verify that you're getting better by doing this every 6 months to a year, that you're going in the right direction. Because I've done this year in and year out on myself for 15 years and many clients, but I watch myself get younger as I go through this, but I'm chronologically 15 years older than when I started it. But it's better today than it's ever been, because now I continue to work on this because I don't have symptoms, so what am I going to do?
Right.
I just work on this to improve it. And that's how I started doing a cone beam last year. Because I was like, why is my head not compensating? I've been doing this for too long. Why is my head not compensating? I've done cavitation surgery. I do a cone beam. I send it to Dr. Caratola. He sends me a little, I love Dr. Jerry Caratola. He's so funny. He sends me back a video of my cone beam, talking to me. He's moving around. He's like, how are you doing today? Good. No, not good. I have cavitations. And he shows me my cavitation because proper technique wasn't done when I had my cavitational surgery. They didn't know to put in the PRF and the scaffolding that he does now, and a couple of dentists that he's trained to do that. So now we're going to deal with that another way. That's a whole nother story. But I wouldn't have known to do that cone beam had I not done that CRT.
Right, because you had no symptoms.
I have no symptoms.
Right.
Right. So that's the beauty of it. So what's your definition of health after you've been here now for 4 or 5 weeks? Again, no on the spot, my type A personality hates to be tested and gets Fs. When I gave her an F last week, I thought she was going to freak out on me.
I wasn't worried about that. But now I have no idea what to say because you pressured me.
No, fine. But you know what's the best part about that? You communicated to me exactly how you felt.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's really awesome.
I stopped smiling as much too when I didn't mean it.
When you didn't mean
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Which is great. So, Angel, take a breath. Breath out. What would be your definition of health today versus whatever your
Proper
definition was?
regulation.
Okay.
Getting rid of your toxins. Getting rid of more toxins than you take in. That's health. And then you don't have symptoms probably because you're healthy.
So lack of symptoms isn't the only sign of
Right.
health.
But you can work toward better health, feeling better, even though you don't have symptoms. For instance, myself, I don't have any symptoms.
Until we start moving your loads.
Till we started doing things and realized that is actually, these are things that are not working properly and regulating properly.
Right.
And so the fact that I realize that now makes me want to work toward better health
Yeah.
and regulating.
And it's not just in the physical world, right?
Right.
It's in the
It's
emotional
definitely
world.
in the emotional world as well.
It's being able to properly compensate. So if somebody tells me some bad news, I'm not going to smile.
Right.
I'm going to look sad. She can't stop that.
Right.
But I'm going to look sad because they told me sad news.
Right.
Right? It's just having appropriate responses.
Absolutely.
If it's rainy and cold outside and windy, then I'm going to wear the appropriate clothes.
Right.
I'm not going to walk outside in my t-shirt and my shorts and be like, it's February and 40. It's awesome because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense if somebody tells you sad that you smile.
Right.
It also doesn't make sense if somebody hurts you that you don't tell them.
That's true.
And it also doesn't make sense if you love somebody that you don't tell them.
That's true.
So, health can be defined as having appropriate regulation, can be defined as having appropriate responses as we go through life for every single thing we do in life. When the toilet was exploding here at True Wellness a few weeks ago, 4 times, not really 4 times, but it felt like 4 times, it was the ability to compensate for that properly that allowed us to move through it and not get slammed down by it and shut the whole office down and not be able to deal with the clients that are traveling from afar and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You just got to deal with life and let it fly off your back and move through it easily, comfortably, and joyfully. It's because you can relax and recognize that you are good enough, that life is easy and joyful.
I don't have that one.
It's a little EVV affirmation. Thank you, Dr. Louise Hayes. Well, she's not a doctor, but she should be. So that's it. Are there any questions about regulation?
No.
Not a question. We silenced them all. Well, I thank you all for being here. I do request that you share this with your friends. As Silas says, subscribe to our user something or other for Facebook Live. But truly do share this with people because I think there's a misconception out there about health.
Yeah.
It's a
Definitely.
misconception that health is lack of symptoms.
Right.
And nothing will drive me crazier more than most than people coming in and going, I was healthy until I got my diagnosis.
Right.
You're not your diagnosis. And as my friend and colleague and incredible mentor, Rasmus Bergenhausen, who created Sound of Soul, stated so clearly, the worst thing on the planet is not war. It's not even war. It's diagnosis. And this whole world is acting like it's at war right now against the coronavirus because people are afraid of a diagnosis. And I just will leave you with that. I hope that gave you more to think about. Have a good night.